I always thought that I was going to spend the majority of my time staying at home with my kids someday. That was my aspiration. If you asked me when I was 10, what do you want to do someday? I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And God had a different plan for me and put me into this business world. And I learned that that's something I'm really good at. And so making sure that I'm being the mom that I want to be for my kiddos and being the wife I want to be for my husband and being able to do my work well and have community, all of that is really important to me. And so I think to do it well, it means a few things. One of them is that, as someone has said before, you can have it all, but not all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that that's true. I also think you can kind of have it all, but at a different level of expectation. And so there's going to be meetings that I'm not going to be able to attend. Next week, a whole day meeting came up and I won't be there for 2 hours because my son has kindergarten online graduation.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be my first priority. And it goes back to our purpose conversation. When we've defined our purpose and we understand our priorities, it isn't I'm sorry. It is this is my priority. I can't wait to be there at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so,
so a lot of people might push back and say, well, they would either qualify that you have something they don't, or they would say that they're dealing with some problem that you don't have to deal with. So what's the habit of, one, identifying those boundaries, and two, enforcing them, and then also dealing with the conflict that might come from both of those?
That's good. So it's kind of like, what's the principle behind it for those that might find themselves in a different life situation?
Yeah. Or maybe it's not a different life situation, but they just perceive it that way because you're doing something that's harder or that can cause challenging, like if it's your boss and you're saying, maybe they have a boss they have a hard time interacting with, so it could be perception, it could be real, but ultimately they're not able to be courageous in the way that you're describing.
Yeah. So a big part of it is, does the employer have a perspective that supports the whole person and that trusts? And I think when you're working for a company who doesn't support you holistically and doesn't have trust to say, this is going to be what's best for that person, that's a different dynamic. And it's one that I would have a really hard time working for, because I want to work for a person or a company who trusts me and knows that I'm going to show up above and beyond if I have my priorities in order.
Yeah.
And when they're not in order, I'm actually going to suffer majorly and my work is going to suffer, because that hour or 2 hours that I was going to be at kindergarten graduation, I'm not going to be contributing well, because I'm going to be resentful actually that I'm on a call instead of with my son. So well, I get that.